Alright everyone, this is Matt here on the Vinyl Head UK channel, and today I have another vinyl from my collection to show to all of you. Now, we've looked at some stuff, some older stuff, but this is a more modern record. This is a 2019 record. I actually got it a little bit of a while ago, so it's kind of been sat there. It's been played, but it's been sat there waiting for its moment to come out and be shown to all of you. It's an Australian band. It's not AC/DC, but we're not far off, okay? I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Right here, I have Airbourne with their 5th studio album, Boneshaker. 2019 release, as I say. This is a 2019 pressing, and it was put out by Spinefarm Records. So there we have it. So, Boneshaker. It kind of sounds like all their other albums. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? We'll come on to that, alright? But there we have it. Looking at the artwork, so it's got this... we've got, obviously, our Airbourne logo, Boneshaker. And then this kind of skull-looking thing. He looks like he has his, maybe his goggles on, like he's about to drive very fast in his car and have his bones shaked, maybe. I don't know. I might be wrong. So that's the front artwork. Flipping it over onto the back. Our usual... stuff that we would find is our track listing, produced by, where it was recorded, and all of your other stuff. This was actually produced by Dave Cobb. Now, Dave Cobb is a multi-time Grammy winner, but he's kind of more known for country music more than anything. There's a couple of rock bands he's done, Rival Sons. Great band, is another band that he's produced. But yeah, he's normally more of a country guy. So it's interesting he's come on board with a more of a hard rock style with this album. Production-wise, I think it makes it a little bit rawer. Some of their other albums have been a little bit clean and polished on the production, whereas I think this one is a little rawer. It's got more of an edge to it. It sounds kind of like you're in a rehearsal room with the band, but let's slow down. Let's not jump ahead. We'll come on to all of that. We were looking at artwork. Now, this is actually a gatefold. I'm going to open it up and kind of hopefully show you the whole picture. Lean back a little bit there. But we have a nice picture of the band in our gatefold. To lean back to fit it in. And then inside, let's pull out what we've got. We have, what we got here? Lyrics. Here's our lyric sheet. Bit more to it than some of the lyric sheets that I've pulled out. There are some pictures of a band during production of a record. A who's who down in the corner. And then flipping it over, we have our thank yous. More pictures of a band in various, pretty much just all from the recording of a record. All of our thanks down below. Quite a cool right down the bottom, if you can just about make that out there. We have all the endorsees by the band. Marshall, Vater, Zildjian, Gibson, Eddie Ball, Fender. Lots of different companies down there, so there you go. And then our record itself, so it's 180 gram, so it's a nice big chunky vinyl there. We have side 1, track listing, and Spinefarm Records to the side there, and then the artwork, the front artwork of a record is over on the second side. So there we have it. As normal, I'm going to pop it all back. I don't want to risk damaging the vinyl. I don't want to scuff it. I don't want to accidentally drop it. That would be embarrassing on this video, wouldn't it? So I'm going to pop it back in. Or try to, at least. There we go. So, who is Airbourne on this? We had a slight lineup change on this record. But Airbourne lineup. Joel O'Keefe. We have brothers in this band. So we've got Joel O'Keefe, who is vocalist and on lead guitar. We have Matt Harrison on rhythm guitar. Now, he is our newcomer to the band. He joined back, I think it was about 2017. So this is the first Airbourne record that he was actually on. David Rhodes was the original rhythm guitarist. He left. I think he went to work on his family business or something like that. Anyway, Justin Street on bass, and then Ryan O'Keefe on drums. As I say, we got Joel, and then we have Ryan, the two O'Keefe brothers. And that rounds off Airbourne, just a 4-piece. So, Airbourne, I think I've seen Airbourne a few times live in various festivals. I saw them out in Germany. I've seen them supporting a few artists over doing arena shows and various things. Pure rock and roll. You know, they don't make any bones about that. No pun intended. But they are a pure rock and roll band. You'll see the Stacks and Marshalls when you go see them live. I think now that we don't have Motorhead anymore and Lemmy anymore, I think Airbourne are trying to steal in as the loudest band in the world. Every time I've seen them, that volume is up. But yeah, it's very basic, you know, simple formula to it. It's not hugely technical. It's not music that's going to make you really have to think and work it out. You know, it's not like a Meshuggah or anything like that where you're sat like trying to work out time signatures. It's 4/4, it's rock and roll. You stomp your feet, you bang your fist, you bang your head, and that's it. That is Airbourne. They are straight from the AC/DC playbook. There isn't any way that I can get through this without mentioning AC/DC, because they are probably maybe a slightly heavier AC/DC. They sound like AC/DC. Their song structures are like AC/DC. The riffs are like AC/DC. You know, we talked about Greta Van Fleet coming from the Led Zeppelin playbook. This is the same sort of thing, really. So I will go through the tracks a little bit for you guys. Again, I don't want this to be a review, as I always stress, just talking about the record and appreciating the record. But let's go through the track listing. This record, it's half an hour. That's it. It's like 30 minutes long, just over, maybe like 32 or something like that. It's a very, very short record, and it flies through with adrenaline and speed. You know, bang, 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 bang on each track, and before you know it, it's done. Side A, or side 1, Boneshaker, Burnout The Nitro, This Is Our City, Sex to Go, and Backstreet Boogie. Let's flip it over onto the second side, Blood in the Water, She Gives Me Hell, Switchblade Angel, Weapon of War, and then Rock and Roll for Life. So as I say, production-wise, with Dave Cobb at the helm, taking the production seat, it is a little bit rawer, I think, you know. It does sound like you're in a rehearsal room with them and the band are playing with you. I'll come on to more about what the actual record sounds like at the end. But let's just go through our tracks and just give you a little bit of little kind of tidbits on them, I would say. So, Boneshaker, we don't charge into the record. It starts with this kind of slow intro riff that builds up. There's no explosive start into this Airbourne record. It's a big solo. It's a very high up in the mix solo. You know, this solo screams out and sits very high in the mix. And as a lot of these tracks have, it's a big chorus. It's a pump your fist, bang your fist, sing along type chorus. You know, it worked for AC/DC. It's doing the same thing with Airbourne. Burnout The Nitro, we go into pretty much what we class as typical sound in Airbourne. We've heard a lot of this sort of stuff before. You know, sleazy lyrics. Going on to This Is Our City, a very AC/DC sounding riff. You know, I'm going to say this a lot. We all know by now the AC/DC sort of sound that they have, but this is purely taken from an AC/DC record, that riff. Sex to Go, sleazy, sort of stompy riff. You know, bang your foot to, tap your foot to. Sleazy lyrics. Backstreet Boogie. Again, a very AC/DC sounding intro, taken straight from the playbook of AC/DC. And then the lyrics, as Joel starts his vocals, it's, you know, it's kind of shut your eyes, and it sounds in a little bit like early Bon Scott. I don't know if that was intentional. I imagine it probably would be, given everything else taken from AC/DC. But yeah, just for the very start, it doesn't continue on, but it does sound like Bon Scott. He's channeling his inner Bon Scott somewhat there. Blood in the Water, kicking off the second side. Again, that intro, it's like maybe a lesser version of Whole Lotta Rosie. It's got that feel to it. So more, again, AC/DC. I've said AC/DC more in this than I have Airbourne, you know. She Gives Me Hell, more of the same. Switchblade Angel, quite up tempo, quite like this track. Another sort of stompy riff. Weapon of War is a more, dare say, political lyrical content song to a degree. It has this slow intro, this slow riff of an intro. It sounds a little bit different to what we've heard on the rest of the record. It then loses that and goes back into a typical Airbourne song. It sounds like a lot of other Airbourne songs, but it is a slight they are slightly detracting away from their normal lyrical sort of thing, like sleazy lyrics about sex, about alcohol, all, you know, what you'd expect to find on an AC/DC Airbourne record. And then Rock and Roll for Life, probably my favourite track actually on this record. It's one that if I'm listening to this, I'll talk about volume of this record in a sec, but if I'm sort of listening to this one, if it's on in the background, it's kind of low volume, this always makes me get out of my seat and turn the volume up. It's the sort of track that you'd be in the car, you wind your windows down, turn it up, put your foot down and go. It's very much a driving song. It's a very short track as well. Just jumping back, speaking about track left, Weapon of War is a staggering 4.5 minutes. Now, as I say, this album is only half an hour or so, so you can imagine those other tracks, of which there are 10, go by quite quickly. You know, we're looking at sort of just over 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes for the others, but 4.5 minutes for Weapon of War. But yeah, then jumping back to Rock and Roll for Life, it's a short track. It's got a nice riff to it. Again, it's nothing we haven't heard before, and it rounds off the album nicely. So yeah, I mean, it's rinse and repeat a little bit for Airbourne. They very much take from the same playbook every single time. Some might argue boring and not original. Some might argue it's just does the trick completely. I kind of sit a little bit in the middle on that, you know. I feel that this has got a place in the sense that people enjoy AC/DC. I mean, dare I say that AC/DC made a hell of a career playing sort of kind of the same riffs and the same song structures, and look at them. Probably one of the biggest rock bands ever to grace the earth. And that's not a dig at them, it's a formula that's really worked for them. You know, it's basic. It's nothing that's gonna, I mean, Angus, fantastic guitar player, but it is basic music. There's not masses to it. Being a drummer and listening to the drum parts on them, it's nothing that's too technical or too challenging. Pretty much all in 4/4. It's all got that, just going like that, mid-tempo pace to it. Yeah, there's nothing much to it. And Airbourne do the same thing. They take straight from that same playbook. And it does work for them. Some people buy this 5th album, I look at it and think, oh man, we've heard this all before, you know. But it's a formula that they're going to stick to. I would be shocked if Airbourne ever changed their sound and came away and did something completely different. It'd be very odd, very weird. But it works for them. And for a lot of people, they're very satisfied with this formula and just hearing the same thing, just riffs change slightly and lyrics change. I sit kind of in the middle, as I say. Be nice to hear something a little bit different, but at the same time, do we want to? Who knows? The sound of this record. Now, I mentioned a little bit about volume. This is a loud record. It's the loudest one I own. I like to give my records a little bit of welly when I play. I like the feeling of feeling like I'm sat in the room with the band, especially with the rock and metal records that I have. I think it's music that does require a bit of volume to it. The blues stuff that I haven't listened to, you don't need that quite in your face. The same with country stuff, you don't need it quite in your face. I think rock and metal, you kind of do. It comes with the territory. But this is loud. There's a couple of times I'm sat listening to it with the volume up and I'm like, I need to turn it down a little bit. More so because my neighbours, I don't know what they're going to think. It is loud. It doesn't distort it really, but it is quite loud. As I say, Rock and Roll for Life, if I am listening to a little bit quiet, I mean, that track gets turned up anyway because it needs to be turned up, that track. It is a proper rock and roll track. It needs it. It's very digital sounding. There's not really much dynamics to it in the grand scheme of things. It does sound like a CD straight to vinyl and given some welly on the volume. I mean, yes, it is nice to have vinyl with amazing sound stages and amazing ranges on the dynamics and the separation, but you know, I don't know, I might argue that maybe it's not the biggest deal if we don't have that on this record, on this vinyl here, because of the style of the music. As I say, the production itself has made the solos stand out. Those couple of those, well, more than a couple of those solos sit so high up in the mix that they suddenly like scream out at you, and it's like, man, that's come from nowhere. But I think that is a tactic of them because it is rock and roll and guitar solos deserve to be loud and in your face. You know, that's cliche rock and roll. So, you know, one might argue that does exactly what it should do. But yeah, I mean, it's not the most dynamic record I have. It's a decent record, as I say. If you've listened to the other Airbourne records, you're not going to be in for a shock with what you hear on this. It's going to be more of the same. It's probably going to sound very similar to the others, but it works. You know, it's nice to have a bit of a grittier production on this record as well. But yeah, audiophiles, if you're looking for the best sounding dynamic record, it's probably not going to be this one, I'm afraid. But there we have it. The 5th studio record by Airbourne. It's Boneshaker. The volume of it will make your bones shake. It will make your house shake. It will make your neighbours shake. It will make the dog 6 streets away shake. but it's rock and roll, and we like that. Let's not complain, okay? So, Airbourne, Boneshaker. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to go and subscribe. Go and smash the like button. Go and hit that bell for all notifications. We're starting to build up a little bit on the subscriber count, which is great. Thank you all very, very much. It's very much appreciated, all of those guys. I'll be back soon with plenty more vinyl to share with you guys. Keep an eye out for the Download Memory series. Loads more going on the channel. But until then, buy vinyl, listen to vinyl, turn it up, it's rock and roll, and we love it.